Fist me. Here we go. Jesus. That's so fast. Oh, man. Oh! I did not expect that. 0 to 100 in Hey guys, honestly, this is my favorite type of video, and that is long-term impressions, because after spending a lot of time with a car, I can finally sit down and say for sure whether or not I really like it. This type of content is also my favorite type of sponsored content. Yes, this video is sponsored by Hyundai, but as with all the companies we work with, we have full creative license and full editorial license to tell you exactly what we think. Really, they're just paying for a slot here on the channel. And so I thought, rather than doing that usual thing where you drive out to a winery and you have a wine and you drive back home, say how much you love the car, I thought, actually, let's live with it and see, is it actually any good? So that's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna give you my full impressions, my long-term impressions of the Hyundai IONIQ 6. I spent a lot of time driving the Dynamiq, the base model in the bright blue, and this one here, the EPIQ all-wheel drive. And I definitely have a lot of thoughts, a lot of good, but there are some bad, of course, as with any car. So today I'm gonna tell you all about that. We're gonna go for a full exterior tour. We're gonna check out its practicality, move on to the interior. Of course, we are going to launch this thing, see just how quick it is, and it's genuinely really surprising, as you just saw. And then we're gonna give this thing lots of sauce, see just how well this thing drives, or if it drives well at all. And then I'm gonna end on my final thoughts. What are my long-term impressions of the Hyundai IONIQ 6 as I hand this back to move on to the next one? So I'm really excited, let's get into it. Alrighty, let's first talk price, because since first reviewing this, I've actually added a few more variants in, which is good to see. It's just more variety. So now there is a new base model. It's just called the IONIQ 6. It comes with a smaller 53 kilowatt hour battery. It's rear wheel drive only, and it will set you back 65,500 Australian dollars before on-road costs. And then there is this, the IONIQ 6 EPIQ all-wheel drive, because they actually added a rear-wheel drive version of this too. It comes with a larger 77.4 kilowatt hour battery, and it will cost you 85,500 Australian dollars, again, before on-road costs. And yes, there is no doubt that this isn't a cheap car. However, it is built on an 800 volt architecture, which is better than pretty much all of its competitors who are built on a 400 volt architecture. And that gives it some really nifty things. For example, really fast and advanced 350 kilowatt charging. Nothing else really comes close to that. They all cap out at like 170 kilowatts. So this is pretty much double, as long as you can find the charger, of course. Let's talk about the way that this thing looks though, because honestly, I think it is a gorgeous car. Yeah, the back is a bit polarizing, but even that is cool, and I'll show you why. Up front here, you have your parametric pixel LED daytime running lights. There are also your turning signals, very, very bright LEDs in there as well. You'll also notice that the bonnet is really low slung. That gives you a really great view when you're driving the car, but it also reduces its drag coefficient. This thing has a drag coefficient of 0.21, which is a really slippery car. That helps with aerodynamics. Also this too, you got active aero here. These are shutters that open and close depending on if the battery needs cooling or air conditioning needs some more air. That helps with that. You've got some more parametric pixels here with a couple of holes, I guess, for something. And a sensor. This thing does have pretty amazing autonomous driving. It will send you down the lane. It'll keep you a safe distance from the car in front of you. It all works really, really well. And yes, I can confirm it looks just as creamy in person as it does on my camera. Seriously, it's a really beautiful car. Let's check out the side. Yeah, it truly is this angle where you notice that this thing is actually not that small. From dead on the front, it does look quite petite, but then you come to the side and that's when you notice that this is a like full-size family sedan. In fact, its wheelbase is 2,950 millimeters long because it is built on Hyundai's eGMP platform, which is shared with things like the IONIQ 5N. So yeah, that actually means it's got a lot of aluminium in the subframe. It makes this thing handle really, really well, but you'll see that. I'll be honest, at first I was quite concerned by these 20-inch wheels. They're like machine alloyed, because large wheels generally on an EV, not very comfortable, but I'll eat my words, and again, you'll see why. They're also wrapped in Pirelli P0 tires, which are very good tires. It means that even though this thing does have a lot of torque specifically, you can actually put it down on the road very well, and it's weirdly fast. And then I love this. Again, I wasn't really excited to have these because it has the optional now wing mirror cameras, and in a lot of cars, the implementation has just been poor, but this, I don't know, it works. I also love that it's in this like very early 2000s-esque transparent transparent case. You can see the little LEDs inside of it. Just looks awesome. And it's actually got 2 cameras on it. One's for your blind spot camera and 360 camera, and the other one is for your wing mirror camera, which is really interesting. And also, fun fact, on the antenna up top, that's also transparent, and you can see through that too, just like the wing mirrors. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. You've also got pop-out door handles that actually work very, very well. Easy to use, keyless entry and go, of course. You've also got very tinted privacy glass. You would expect that at this price though. And you'll notice how swoopy, coopy this thing is. It really is a gorgeous design. Like, frankly, everything else looks the same these days, but I really think that this is unique and that the designers have done something different. And I love that. Let's check out the bum. All right, let's talk about its backside, because how could you not? This thing is so wild and I love it. It's something different. Like I said, every car is the same. This really is not. And there's a lot going on here, guys. So up here you have like your first spoiler. Kind of looks like you've got an air-cooled thing up the top. Of course, it's all just fake. Almost like a air-cooled 911, an old one. Looks really cool. Then you have this massive third brake light here. Of course, there are parametric pixels on the inside. And when you put your foot on the brake, this whole thing lights up, and so does this enormous light bar down the bottom. Of course, parametric pixels again. That is, if you couldn't guess, Hyundai's design language. With a full-length light bar, you've also got very bright LED lights there too, and your reverse lights are down here. Of course, you have another spoiler here on the back, and a relatively tame bumper considering, not to mention, IONIQ 6 is spelt out in really nice white lettering. You've got your reverse camera here. This thing does have a very good reverse and 360 camera. There's a lot of cameras on this car. And even your boot release button here are parametric pixels. So yeah, overall, I love the way that this thing looks. It truly is such a head turner. I have people speeding up to this car all the time just to get a look at it. And it's no surprise, it does just look wild. Very tame from the front and then really extroverted at the rear. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Is it too much, or is it really good? Is it different? And that's a good thing. I'm very curious to hear what you guys have to say. Let's check out practicality. Alrighty, so what about what it can fit inside of its bum? Well, first of all, powered tailgate. That's always fun to see, though expected at this price point. This is our camera gear. If I shove it in here, it's actually relatively decent. Now, I didn't think it would be, because on paper, it's 401 liters, but a lot of competitors actually measure a lot more of the space. For example, under the floor, which this has a little bit of, not a huge amount, but the benefit of it is it's so wide and so long that actually getting things in there like 2 large suitcases is totally fine. You could also drop the rear seats and get even more space. And of course, being an EV, you also have a Frunk or a front boot. And even though I'm glad you do get it, in the all-wheel drive, it is quite small, something like 12 or 14 liters, whatever it is. It's enough to fit your charging cables and get them out the back, which is actually a great thing. Just frees up more space there. But yeah, look, it's not mind-blowing, and I haven't found myself using this unless I've needed the emergency charger. Alrighty, let's talk about the interior. First test. It is well built. That's one of the things I've noticed, actually. One of the first things is that there aren't any rattles or squeaks, and there have been previous Hyundais I've been in where they came with rattles and squeaks, but I've now sat in a few of these Hyundai IONIQ 6s, and they're really well built. You touch around and there's soft-ish touch materials, and this was actually one of my first complaints. When I got in here, I'm like, does it feel like an $85,000 car? Because you just have these like different materials, like corrugated materials over here and like a plasticky soft touch. But if you do a little bit of research into this interior, you'll find that actually a lot of it is just recycled materials. So for example, a lot of the materials like on the door, well, they're made from recycled bottles that have been just discarded in the ocean, and fish nets and things like that. So really, it just made me think, yeah, a lot of effort really has gone into the mantra of this car, which is about green. It's about being good for the environment, you know? And I get it, and actually it's made me appreciate the interior quite a lot more. And of course, it is still a very nice premium product at the end of the day. So you get these very cool leather seats, literally very cool too. They are heated and cooled. They're also adjustable in a lot of ways, including like the relaxation mode. I think they call it zero gravity, but essentially when you're charging this car or whatever, you could have a nap. You've got a dedicated button to lie back, and when you do, it is so comfortable. These seats have been really, really good on longer journeys too. I have found it interesting anyway that they've got blue and orange. I actually have no idea what that means. And I love how they just spell out Hyundai IONIQ 6 airbag on the tags. Like it could have just been airbag, but instead it's Hyundai IONIQ 6 airbag. which is just funny, I think. Of course, being a Hyundai EV, we've come to expect that they're going to be very practical, and absolutely it is. We've got a couple of cup holders here. We've also got a huge storage area under here. There's a 12-volt socket hiding there too, if you're looking for that. You have a Qi fast wireless charger here that does actually charge devices, which is awesome. A USB-A port, and it's a pretty big center armrest with another storage area, of course, fiddled with parametric pixels. You have, instead of a glove box, a glove drawer. I don't know why I love doing that too. And there is plenty of space in there. And it's just the design. Like, I love how it's winged in a way. And that allows you to see your mirrors up here, which, like I said, at first I was really worried that they were frankly just going to be but they're not, and you can adjust them too. So it's just like a normal mirror, but it's like you take your eyes off less from the road, which is good. In terms of other technology, well, you got another 2 screens here. They're really good. So this infotainment display, the one knock I have against it is it doesn't come with wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto, though apparently that could come in an update, an over-the-air update, which this thing has had a few while I've been living with it. It is very, very snappy, bright, color accurate, and easy to use. And then up in front of you, you get your digital instrument display. Again, it shows a bunch of information on it. You're not wanting for anything really. And my favorite part is it's just easy to use. A lot of screens now, they're throwing so many things at it that it's actually becoming a little overwhelming, but this is not. It's simple. It's just a set and forget. Huge shout out to this leather steering wheel. It does feel really nice. Love the 2-spoke design. You've also got 4 parametric pixels. That's Morse code for H. And it's also got dynamic little LEDs in there. So when you change your drive modes, for example, Eco is green, Sport is red. It's just cool design. Up in front of you, you get a heads-up display. It's bright, color accurate. Again, it works fine. You've also got a Bose sound system, which out of the box sounds fine. But as you guys know, I'm a bit of an audio head, so I've increased the low end and I've also decreased the mids and the highs, and I think that just gives it a better balance. Otherwise, it's a bit sparkly. Oh, and a couple of other shout outs. So first of all, you've actually got a huge amount of storage up in the doors, and I do love the ambient lighting. You can customize this thing a lot, and it's nice and bright. It just looks quite classy, actually. And you've got pretty big door bins as well. Not to mention, you get a functional sunroof. So many of this car's competitors will have a fixed roof. This one is opening, and you can also close it as well if it's really cold or really hot, and that just helps to regulate temperature on the inside. So yeah, overall, I think it took me a moment to kind of get behind the philosophy of this interior, but once you do, you really do appreciate it for what it is. And it really does suit the character of this car and is a nice, comfortable place to be. Oh, and one more thing, I actually find it pretty funny that the window controls are in the center, which was very much a Holden Commodore thing back in the day. It's just funny to see here because Hyundai don't really do it on any of their other products. Just cool. Let's check out the back seats. Okay, so first things first, these doors open almost 90 degrees, so getting inside is very, very easy, and it's made even easier because of the huge wheelbase of this car. Again, sound. Sounds good. So I'm 5'11". I have so much legroom. It is acres. It's honestly better than a lot of its rivals. In fact, I can't think of one rival that is this good in the back. It does have some packaging restraints. Of course, it is a low vehicle and the battery lives in the floor, so my legs are at a higher angle than I probably would like. You do get plenty of toe room, though I slam my seat all the way down, so I can't quite get it in front of me. And headroom as well for me is actually totally fine. I was just wondering why my bum was so warm. Well, that's because I have my heated seat accidentally turned on, which is a great segue. Yes, you do get heated seats back here. They are very nice. The leather back here is just as nice as up front. You got a pull down center armrest. Ooh, nice soft with a couple more cup holders. In terms of amenities, you got a couple of air vents, a couple of USB-C ports, and a pretty large open storage area. And you get map pockets back here too. You've also got some chauffeur features in here. For example, you can move the passenger seat from anywhere in the car, so you can make more space for the lucky person behind them. Again, materials back here are the same. You got this corrugated recycled plastic. You got some more recycled plastic here. It's all nice and soft touch, and pretty big door bins there as well. So yeah, overall, I am very impressed with the interior. Now we're going to launch this thing, but of course, before we do, I want to give a quick shout out to us, carsauce.com/buy. My team can help you get the absolute best deals on your next car because we have thousands of dealerships who we make literally fight each other to get you the absolute best price on your next Hyundai IONIQ 6. And of course, because we have thousands of dealers, we can source cars from anywhere in Australia. So if that sounds good to you, and it definitely should, head to carsauce.com/buy when you want to buy. buy your next car. All right, let's launch it.
5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11", 5'11",
So I've purposely not timed a launch yet. Obviously I've done some traffic light drags, right? But I haven't timed the 0 to 100. So I'm gonna put the car into sport mode. The car is at 44%. I wonder if that will affect just how much power we're gonna get, but considering that we're on Pirelli P0s and it's all-wheel drive, I'm hoping for the best. They claim 0 to 100 5.1 seconds. Let's see. So fist me. Here we go. Jesus. That's so fast. Oh man. Oh! I did not expect that. 0 to 100 in 4.78 seconds. That is actually significantly faster than what they claim. Unreal. It feels really fast as well. I'm super duper impressed, honestly. Super duper impressed. Let's drive this thing normally. All righty, mummies and daddies. Let's put our foot down. Man, this thing has just such an insane amount of torque, specifically torque. Oh, and the beeping starts. Okay, press this. So unfortunately, as part of ANCAP requirements, this car has to have a speed limit assist. It's actually quite a lot easier to turn off now than it first was when I got the car because of an over-the-air update. It's given me a quick button here to go into the settings and turn off the beeping from the speed limit assist. Before I talk about how this thing drives, I just want to quickly say how we can do a long-term impressions, even though this is technically sponsored content, and that is because we don't charge for the content, we charge for our time. As you know, Daddy Jacob and I, we're a two-man team, and we have such a limited amount of time. So if a manufacturer does want to have one of their cars on our channel, and it's not just like a new release or something, well then we just have to charge for that. And of course, they know very clearly beforehand that we will say what we genuinely think. So let's talk about that. Safety system, you have to turn it off. It's a little bit annoying, but also literally every manufacturer has that issue at the moment. It is not just Hyundai. The other thing is range. So you can see I've got 48% battery left and about 200 kilometers of range. So I've been getting just over 400 kilometers of range every time I've been driving this thing before I've had to really fill up, which is fine, but it's definitely not the 500 kilometers or so of WLTP that is claimed. But again, it's like fuel efficiency. It's a laboratory test. It's never really quite real world. But 400 kilometers is still respectable, and I can also respect it if it drives well. So let's put the car into sport mode, put our foot down. Oh man. So yeah, powering this thing are dual electric motors, a more powerful one at the rear, but the combined is 239 kilowatt of power, 605 newton meters of torque. And look how this thing is handling, guys. It shouldn't drive this well. Seriously, the engineers have done such a fantastic job. Not only that, this thing doesn't have adaptive dampers. So you would kind of expect it to, well, just either be really crashy or too soft. We've seen that in pretty much all of its competitors. But what they have here, and a lot of their new EVs, is dual chamber dampers. And essentially that means that depending on the frequencies of the road, it can just change the damping setup. So it's not adaptive dampers per se, but it kind of is, like passively adaptive. And so it means that when you do corner like relatively hard, this thing handles like incredibly well. Not only that, it doesn't body roll. And so you just get this like freak of nature of a handling sedan. Like it just does amazing. And as you guys know, this is the real test. Saucy bloody corner. So we'll come, slow down a little bit, and then we will go foot down. Gosh, the acceleration is just so quick. I'm gonna put regen on max, and now turn here. It shouldn't handle like this amazingly well, but of course it is an EV, so it's kind of on cheat mode. The steering, by the way, is just fantastic. But because the battery's in the floor and you've got all four wheels around it, it handles like almost like a magic car. It just shouldn't ride this well, is what I'm trying to say. And when you're not driving it like this and you put the car back into normal mode, across all grades, you get laminated glass, so it's very quiet on the interior, and so it feels really refined. Obviously, we have the mirrors set up here, which I don't know why I like it so much in this, but I just do. I think it's just because it's bright, it's accurate, it works well. But when you're just driving along, it's so cruisy and easy. Especially when we turn on the cruise control, this thing will essentially drive itself down a highway with zero issue. It doesn't have the newest highway drive assist, but honestly, you'd think it does because it's so good at just centering in the lane. And it's made commuting in this thing such a breeze. Whether we drove, you know, the base model Dynamiq or this top of the range EPIQ, it's such a refined, easy drive, and that's what I really like about it. Also, there's no rattles, there's no squeaks. This thing's done 7,371 kilometers to be precise, and yeah, it's held up so well, even though it has been a press car before we even got it. So, you know, it's done the hard yards, as they say. But if you want to have fun with it, it just does feel so good. And this is what makes me so excited for the IONIQ 6N. We've obviously reviewed the IONIQ 5N, which was probably my favorite EV of all time. And so if the IONIQ 6N is going to be anything like this, I think Hyundai are on a winner. So yeah, overall, I'm super impressed with how the IONIQ 6 drives. I do wish it had a little bit more range, but the fact that it gets 350 kilowatt fast charging and is based on an 800 volt architecture, which you just don't really see at this price point, I'm impressed. So that's driving. Let's tie it all up. Give you my final thoughts. Alrighty, so final thoughts on the Hyundai IONIQ 6. What has it been like? Well, frankly, it's been a pleasure. Driving these around is really quite nice because you're so insulated inside. It's a really nice, quiet place to be. And like I said, the interior really has grown on me. I didn't really like the recycled materials at first, but once you start to understand the mantra of this car, which is environment, well, honestly, it becomes totally understandable. The driving experience, though, is what really blew my mind, because when we first reviewed the Dynamiq when it was the base model, it's no longer, but as a rear-wheel drive, I remember it being very good, but it wasn't like mind-blowing. But then getting back into it, having driven all of its competitors, you drive this thing and it really does feel like a much, much more expensive car. The way it handles, the way it rides, the way it delivers power, it's all very, very impressive. Do I wish that it had slightly better range? Absolutely. But considering that it has such fast charging anyway, it was never an issue for me. Not once did I feel like I had any sort of range anxiety. So yeah, overall, sponsored or not, you know I'll give you my honest thoughts. It's a really good EV. And of course, if you want to buy one of these, we can get you the absolute best price with cars that are actually in stock. All you have to do is head to carsauce.com/buy, put in the details of the car you want, and my team will give you a call. It's a totally free service for you where we will go out and we will negotiate with dealers on your behalf. And best of all, because it's free for you, we just charge the dealer a fixed fee. So we will always go in hardest to get you the absolute best price. And I reckon whatever price you get, you'll be pretty happy. Ciao for now.